I wanted to talk about Apple Pay Cash in a dedicated video because a lot of you, despite them announcing it a long time ago, seem to not understand what it is. So allow me to explain. So the biggest confusion I see is a lot of people are like, how is Apple Pay Cash different from Apple Pay? First of all, Apple Pay is a verb. Apple Pay Cash is a noun, meaning that Apple Pay is a method of transaction. Apple Pay, of course, has been available for a long time on our smartphones and now our smartwatches, and it made its way onto the Mac. If you're checking something out on an online website, you can use Apple Pay, which simply means that on your Apple device, you have your debit or credit cards from your bank, sign up, and very quickly with Apple Pay, you can make a transaction with that card. For me, I have several cards programmed into my watch so that when I'm shopping or I simply double tap the side button on my Apple Watch and two cards come up, one credit, one debit, which of course are the accounts that are directly held by whatever your bank is. Apple Pay Cash is something Apple introduced to make it easier for you within iMessage to send money from person to person. And one nice thing about this is that Apple takes no cut. If you send $2 to your friend, they will receive $2. There's no 15-cent fee, or at least in my experience from what I've noticed, there's not been a transaction fee when sending money to your bank. I can sure really quick here. Yep, no. That's one unfortunate thing about a lot of different kind of payment methods, like PayPal is a popular one. To transfer money to your bank, usually they take a little bit of piece of that. Apple's not about that. I think they make their money in the hardware. They're not worried about payments. So if you have someone with Apple Pay Cash set up on their end, which I believe requires iOS 11.2, which is now available to the public, and you have Apple Pay Cash set up on your end, simply through a little tab in iMessage, you tap it and tell them how much money you want to request or pay. There's lots of different options they have programmed into Apple Pay Cash. For instance, one method means that you can manually accept money, so someone can send you money, you can look at it first, see who it's from, and then accept it for some reason. Or you could be a regular human being and have it set to automatically, which means that anytime someone sends you money, it will immediately be added to your Apple Pay Cash account. So the Apple Pay Cash is its own dedicated card. Apple Pay Cash is not affiliated with a bank. This is Apple's card. But of course, the way to get money on this card is sending money through iMessage from your friends or adding money directly to your Apple Pay Cash card from your bank account. So this can be separate from Wells Fargo, which is in my example. So when using Apple Pay, you can bring up your Apple Pay Cash card. Or of course, if a friend sends you money to your Apple Pay Cash, you can have that money go directly to your bank account. It takes only a couple business days, and like I said, there is no fee. Whereas PayPal transferring money to your bank, if you want it to be done fast, usually takes 25 cents or so. But one advantage to having Apple Pay built into iMessage is that it's very easy to now send money to people with Siri, which some people may feel controversial about. If you wanted to access your friend's phone and be like, hey, send this much money to Nick. While they're not looking, it could get dangerous very quickly, but that's one of the new primary features Apple was gloating about with iOS 11. And now just recently with the new watchOS 4.2, they've added the Apple Pay Cash card to your Apple Watch. So when I double tap now, Apple Pay Cash card comes up right away. And I've been using it ever since it's been available for beta testers, so I've had it for a while. And it's been interesting. It'll work at some locations and not all. I assume that because it was in the beta testing era, perhaps some readers were accepting it and some weren't. Like for instance, Starbucks and McDonald's could accept Apple Pay Cash, but Rayleigh's and Subway couldn't. And I'm confused by that, but it may have changed by now. I'll have to go back and see if it's changed at all. I'm curious because I kind of like the idea of storing some of your money on this cash card because it is not a physical one. Don't think that one shows up in the mail. There's no chip. This is directly an Apple Pay method card. In fact, the only way to use your Apple Pay Cash card is with Apple Pay, or of course with iMessage. It's just kind of like a special gift card, and as of now, I don't think Apple has any rewards for it. It's not like if you use it enough, you get rewards. So Apple's not trying to act like a bank, but I think one day, maybe if we're switching to all Apple Pay methods everywhere, perhaps if you don't trust Wells Fargo, they definitely get hacked a lot of the time and then have to send you letters about buying hacking insurance. Seems a little sketchy to me. I would much rather trust storing a lot of my savings on my Apple Pay Cash card perhaps one day. Maybe not now, as it doesn't really work everywhere and it's not in physical card form, though I have to say, I know I'm all about Apple Pay and I'm all about mobile payments being the future. If Apple did, though, allow the option for you to have an actual physical plastic Apple Pay Cash card, I'd probably use it. I would probably apply for that. But of course, there are a few letdowns with Apple Pay Cash. A lot of you guys have been pointing out. So first of all, it's not available in a lot of countries. I know it's in the US, but there are plenty of countries that you guys have pointed out that I'm well aware of. You don't have it yet, which sucks. I'm very sorry, and I hope it gets to you soon. And second of all, you have to have two-factor authentication turned on for Apple Pay Cash to work, which is definitely very, very frustrating if you have to activate it. You have to have security questions. It means that every time you log into your iCloud account, you have to verify it from a second Apple device. Turning on two-factor authentication is a pain. It takes a long time, and you have to include a photo ID when setting up Apple Pay Cash because technically you're making a transaction tool. So they ask for a lot of personal information. It's definitely kind of complicated to set up, but once it is, being able to send your friends money via iMessage is very, very convenient. And it's kind of nice to have a spending card. Like this card is what you use at Apple Pay locations, and it's separate, you know, from your actual bank account. It's not affiliated with that. It can transfer money to it, but hey, one idea I had was that perhaps if you're putting yourself on a budget, you say, you know, for this month, I don't want to spend more than this much on food or on groceries. So you could put that much money on the Apple Pay Cash card, only use it when you go shopping and when you eat. And then if it runs out, you know, you went over budget. So if anything, it can be a tool used for that. But yeah, I'm just now realizing the Apple Sheep is saying, instead of paying Apple for their products, instead take all of your money and dump it on Apple and let them hold it for you. That way, when you buy Apple products, you take the money from Apple and give it to Apple. This makes a lot of logical sense as an Apple Sheep. Take all the money. But yeah, I hope that cleared it up for you. I know a lot of people were asking how Apple Pay Cash worked. Apple Pay Cash is an actual card where money is stored. Apple Pay is an action. It's a method of transaction. Two different things, both made by Apple. Both sound very similar, I know. But of course, if you have any more questions or things you're unsure about, please just let me know on Twitter or let me know in the comments below. And also, right before I go, I wanted to mention that a lot of people have been asking for an Apple Sheep podcast that would be on Apple Podcasts, as most of you guys are. So I'm excited to announce that we have one now. Me and a fan who has agreed to do a lot of the editing and the posting for the Tailosive Tech podcast, which is now available on Apple Podcasts, have done 2 episodes so far. And just a fair warning, the first episode, we were trying to figure out audio and stuff, and it doesn't sound quite right. But the second episode, we got it figured out. We sound pretty good, I think. So if you're interested in audio listening to me and that fan Nick, who, very interesting guy, very loyal Apple Sheep as well. And don't worry, there will also be other guests on the Tailosive Tech podcast as well. It will always be me. I'll always be there. But sometimes I'll be talking to my friends or my family about technology or other guest stars. So it's not exclusive to me and Nick, but because he does most of the work, he'll definitely be on there a lot. But he's a real pleasure, and he sure knows a lot. He knows a lot of things I don't know. And I hope you guys can enjoy that listening experience. Of course, this is free. I don't gain anything from it, but because so many of you are asking for it, I'd love for you guys to have the option. Hope you enjoy. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one. Adding money directly to the Apple Pay Cash. Adding money. Adding. Sorry, Nathan. Adding money directly. This has never been a problem.
You say cars once. That's
Apple Pay Cash. Apple Pay Cash. Play your game.
It gets worse.
Adding